What is up, everyone? Movie back again with another collaboration video, and it's another Line of Duty collaboration video. Today, I've got my friend Walter on the channel. He has wanted to come on and talk about Line of Duty, and I actually wanted to have him on for reasons I'll get into in a minute. But first of all, Walter, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, Jordan. I'm at university. Things are getting to the end of term and stuff. It's a bit stressful, but keeping well, keeping healthy, it's the main thing. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. Bit sad the show was finished, but
Nah, it's been a crazy 7 weeks, but yeah, optimistic for the future, hopefully.
it wasn't really too helpful when you're trying to do all university work and then you're trying to figure out all these things about Line of Duty at the same time.
It was added stress more than anything. It was just I couldn't handle it.
Okay, so basically, I understand. Well, before I get into it, Walter, I speak to him on Instagram, and he's got a Letterboxd account. So if you're on Letterboxd or Instagram, his details will be down below if you want to follow him on there or whatever. Just basically, it's in the description. So I do advise that you do follow him. So basically, I'm guessing you're a fan of Line of Duty, Walter.
Yeah, you'd be correct. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, big fan.
Would you say this is your favorite show of all time, or one of your favorites, or top 10?
I would probably go as far to say it is my favorite. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because there's a classics. I watched Breaking Bad first time last year, and that was remarkable. But I think sticking to my roots in terms of there's nothing better than British crime drama, in my opinion. Like, I've watched a lot of them, but like since starting Line of Duty, it's just like impressed me more than anything else that I can think of. So I'd go as far to say it's my favorite show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like British TV at times, is there? I mean, we do get some of the best stuff, and it's
Honestly,
like a different tone to it, I feel, compared to everywhere else. I mean, I know what you're saying about Breaking Bad, but I do prefer Line of Duty myself.
yeah.
So every Sunday, me and you have been having like just a little discussion every Sunday after the episodes and stuff. And what I like about this is we're just putting our clues across what we've seen in the episode and stuff. And you came out with some things, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't realize that and stuff." But it is a show that just involves the viewer, isn't it? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think many shows like this that get the viewer so on board. I mean,
No.
you enjoy shows and stuff, but this one, everyone's just trying to guess everything, aren't they? I mean, trying to figure out this mystery that every series gives us.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like Jed Mercurio, the writer, said, especially for this series, I think like he wanted the audience very much like play the detective along with obviously the detectives in the show. I think that's what really benefits from the weekly episodes as well, because like you visit Twitter, it's like a war zone. It's like there's just everyone is just like on there, just trying to like come up with their theories, come up with their ideas. There's obviously you've been making your little weekly episodes on your channel, which has been great to watch. And I just think it's really like having it that way is really a good time, sort of dissect the theories, put on your cap yourself, like rewatch the episodes, get more ideas, notice different things. Because I think that's the thing. The episodes themselves are very rewatchable. Like most of these episodes, I've watched a second time before the next one. Because you watch it at face value the first time, and then you can watch it again and be like, even the little things, like the little subtleties, it's very clever the way he weaves them in. But yeah, it's very much sort of like the whole thing of talking to people about it, and just it's great. It's yeah.
Yeah, I think he is just a masterful writer, Jed, isn't he? I mean, he just, as well as the filmmaking, where they make sure nothing is in a scene by mistake and stuff like that. Just really does give the viewer, a lot to work with. And I always like films that do this, like Knives Out and stuff. So I'm very on board with this show. I just love trying to guess, you know, who's corrupt and stuff like that. And when I done these episodic reviews, I knew Line of Duty was big, but I didn't understand how much of viewer interaction that actually is. I mean, I knew it's good to guess as long as when you're going along with the show, but I didn't understand how much these videos would be so big because everyone just wants to get involved. It's great.
It's
So
got a big following. It's crazy because when you think about it, I've been very interested in the viewing figures as a show, like how it's been recently, and obviously the finale hitting like peak for the last 15 minutes. I think it was like 13.1 million. I think it got, at that time. And then since its inception, I think it was 2012, the first series was. It was a small little show, Wednesday nights on BBC Two, like 2 million sort of viewers kind of thing. And now that's like the newest series is it's the highest rated BBC drama there's ever been in terms of viewing figures. And it's just crazy how much it's just grown and grown and grown. It's amazing.
That does bring me on to my next point. And by the way, everyone, if you haven't seen Line of Duty, there is going to be spoilers probably in this video. I mean, we are going to talk spoilers, so just a heads up there. I should have mentioned it at the start of the video. But I think most people are going to know that. So
You'd hope.
what I was going to say there, when we're talking about these weekly episodes and you watch them weekly, and you've just said it's creeping up every series with how many people are watching it. Did you watch it from the start, or did you come into it some in the middle or towards the end?
So I was first introduced to it by my great uncle, who lives in Grimsby, and we were there for a weekend, I think, and he was like, "Oh, it's a show, Line of Duty. You love your crime drama stuff. You should watch it." And it was series 4, and we watched the first episode of series 4. I watched it with him, and I was just like, because that was Ross Huntley, obviously, Fancy Newton, and I was just like, from that first episode and that cliffhanger in the first episode where Tim Ifield's over with the saw, and I was just like, wow, like I hadn't seen anything like it before. And obviously at the time, I think that was a good 2017. I think that one was, and I was just completely blown away. And then obviously I watched it weekly, then from series 4, and then when series 4 finished, I went back and watched series 1 to 3, and then obviously then there was series 5 and 6. I've watched 4, 5, and 6 weekly when they've come out. And then I remember going back and watching 1 to 3, and I watched all 3 series in like a month, in the span of a month. So it was pretty intense, that was. But yeah, so series 4 was when I started, and since then it's just
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit later to you. That is a great episode, though, by the way, or a great cliffhanger of that series.
yeah.
So I remember watching that going, yeah, I'll just watch the next one now. But came into it very late. I first watched the series 5, the first episode where the ambush happens with Stephen Graham and stuff, John Corbett, and I was like, "What's this show? This looks amazing!" And I found out it was Line of Duty, and I thought, you know what? That's what's the show everyone's talking about on Twitter and stuff. I'm gonna go back, and I just binge watched a lot. And I think I finally caught up to season 5 when there was like 2 episodes left, or the finale, I think it was. So this was my first time really watching it properly every Sunday. And my biggest problem when I binge watched it was whether I had enough time to stay up and watch the next one. But here, my biggest problem is waiting every Sunday, every 7 days, and I was just like, "Are you really going to end the show like that?" And make it? It's a totally different experience. It's the anticipation is like just nothing else, really, is it? I mean,
it's ridiculous because I've a bad habit sometimes when I'm watching something. I'll check the time. I won't go on my phone, but I'll check the time, and then I'll like see there's like 20 minutes left or something. But I hate doing it because it's like I'll check the time. Like, okay, I know there's like that much left. But it's when you don't do that, and like you can often anticipate. I think in certain situations, like because with Line there's often some like big sort of thing that happens at the end of each episode. You're kind of thinking, okay, this is building up something, and then you hear at each episode, you hear that music, you hear like the little tinkle, and you hear it build up, and then it's like, okay, yeah. It's when you hear that music start to play at the end, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that's it. But it's interesting. How is it compared for you? Obviously, as you said, this is the first time watching it weekly. Like, do you prefer this? Do you?
Now doing these YouTube videos, I do actually prefer it because it's been great to interact with everyone and sort of guess what's going to happen. But it's very, very hard waiting. I mean, but on the other hand, I do look forward to Sundays. So
Yeah.
it's a bit of both. I do like both versions of it, but I think I did prefer this one a little bit better, just because of the viewer interaction that we were talking about before, trying to get everything and stuff. And I'm like you, when that music comes on, I'm just like, I sort of hate it because I know it's about to end.
It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet, but yeah, I think that was a good point you said. Like, it's just something to look forward to each week. Like, it's like, oh, it's starting, and then it's like Sunday night, 9 o'clock. You're there, ready and waiting, sort of thing. So I think the only thing is binge watching things. I think it's like you can do it, and you can be so like engrossed at the time. Then when it's like you finish it so quick, you're like, ah, Okay,
Yeah.
so like having it drawn out a bit over time, it's like it keeps you guessing, it keeps you engaged and excited. Because I think if you had, because some shows do that nowadays, they'll like just dump it all on iPlayer, like the whole like box set. Whereas doing it this way is much sort of like the viewing figures for one, and just like keeping people engaged over that amount of time. Whereas if it's all there, be watched within a week, and then that'll be the end of it, really. So it's a good way of keeping people guessing and engaged in the show itself, I think. So it's very beneficial.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that, mate. But before we do get onto this series again, we will talk about it towards the end. I was going to say, have you got any like favorite moments from the entire series? Because we'll sort of comment on here as fans of the show in general, and we are going to talk about 6, like I said. But have you got any like standout moments of this show? Because some of these episodes are some of the best TV I've ever seen. But
Yeah.
this could be from series 1, 2, 3, whatever. Is there any that just stick in your memory of just like really standout television?
It's funny because recently I think what benefited me with this series is I'm at university, so I've got a friend who's never seen the show before, and I was like, I'll watch it with you. So I've gone back to series 1 while I've been watching the series 6, and we've been watching it through series 1. We're on series 5 now over the past month or so, so I've actually been pretty fresh in my mind. Yeah, there's, as you said, there's some of the best TV that's out there for me and you as well. I think there's a lot. I've made a few notes. Like I'll start with series 1. I think Jackie Laverty's death at the end of episode 2, like that was such a shock when that first happened, because like I remember they're going from 1 minute like they're sat having a drink and you're thinking okay, and it's when the knock on the door and then like bang, the men in balaclavas come, slit her throat, and it's just like what?
Yeah,
It's just because it's just how it's done. It's like the least expected thing, and you think, oh, she's built up to be this big character. He's having an affair with her, with his wife. She's got all these property holdings, or all these drug stuff going on, and it's just like she's this big character set up to be. And then he's not afraid to kill people off, Jed Mercury. That's another thing. He's like he'll raise your expectations, and it's like that. And like with John Corbett in series 5, it's just like okay, he's gone. That's it.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, series 1, that especially, I think. I mean, his suicide at the end of the series was sort of a surprise. I think he's built up to be this character who's like the way he reacts to like AC-12, especially like Steve when he's like very pushy on him. Like obviously Steve with the transference of that awful incident from the first episode, like the way he treats like these people, it's like you think he's this big guy who like doesn't really care about what anyone else thinks. He's very on himself, and then like he just realizes there's no way out. Like there's no way out. So it's just like that's it, isn't it? But I mean, it was a surprise, and the first series is actually one of my favorites. I think it's just it's what the show's about. It's got the whole setup and premise behind it, and yeah, those are some big moments for me for series 1. But
yeah.
yeah, I've got more. I don't know if you wanted to add anything in between.
I think they're my standout moments of series 1 as well, mate. I was going to say, I mean, it's not a great to watch, but it's a shocking moment towards the end where I didn't expect him to throw himself in front of
I
that.
know. It's,
But
yeah,
yeah, but I felt kind of bad for him. I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
I like,
yeah.
I like. He started off getting investigated for something. Was it a free drink or something? And then
It
it's
was weird, isn't it? Yeah, and then that whole thing, that robbery, that woman, and then he's like jumps in to help her. Obviously, as a police officer, you think, yeah. But he had that award of the what was the award he got at the start? It was like
that's what it was. Yeah,
yeah, when the suspicions came about. But yeah, no, series 1 was a great series. Series 2 is an interesting one. Series 2, I think Lindsay Denton is amazing. I think the first time I watched series 2 was a good few years ago, and originally I wasn't too keen on her as a character. I thought obviously the things she did, like I was like, she's okay. But watching it again recently, I was like, she's like Keely Hawes, amazing actress. Have you seen Bodyguard, by the way?
no. Owen told me that he'd watched it. He was on the last podcast, but
Yeah.
I know it's written by Jed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's only 6 episodes, I think. So I'd recommend that because she's the main character in that, really, and she's great in that as well. But there's not really many standouts in series 2. I think obviously the prison guards thing was probably the one of the biggest things I can think of when they obviously scald her hand with the kettles, and obviously they appear later on in the show as well. But no, I think series 2 was strong, but I mean, I don't know. What did you think about that?
I'm the same, mate. I mean, I can't remember any too many big moments, but I do remember the prison guard one. Another one, by the way, I just wanted to go back to series 1. The
Yeah, of course.
Doc Cotton reveal at the end. Was that
Mm,
series 1?
that yes, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's when he's sat in the ambulance, isn't it? And he calls Hunter, and he's like, okay, yeah. And then obviously he joins AC-12 in series 2, doesn't he? Yeah, that slipped my mind. Yeah.
That was another moment for me that really like made me stand back and go, "Whoa, I can't wait for the next series now." And like I was binge watching it, so I just went and watched it. But series 2, yeah, I felt kind of bad for Lindsay Denton. I mean, I was same as you. I weren't really liking her as a character at all. But lots of bad things just seemed to happen to her. She had that noisy neighbour,
Yeah.
like that, and yeah, she's a great actress and stuff. But um, I was in two minds about her character. But yeah, I can't really think back of too many big
I've
standout
I've
moments.
just remembered at the end of what episode was it? Was it episode 1 when Georgia Trotman gets thrown out the window?
Right? Is that
That
that is series 2? Yeah.
that's series 2 because it's who's in the bed? It's the woman police officer. I can't remember her name, who was holding Tommy in witness protection, and then there's that nurse that was obviously got switched from that other guy, and then he
Yeah.
out the window. That was big and completely unexpected because she's quite I can't remember her name, the actress' name. No, it's not coming to me, but she's quite a big actress. I think she's in quite a lot of TV shows, so that was a surprise to see her go so soon. But that was definitely a big thing that I just
Well,
remembered. Yeah,
he was built up to be a big character. Well, it was supposedly going to be a big character. But was that episode 1 or 2? I thought it was 2, but it might be 1. I can't quite remember.
I want to say it was 1. I
Right,
want
right.
to say it was 1 because she replaced Kate at first, didn't she? Obviously, then Kate went over. And then because obviously because it's funny, and we'll talk about it when we talk about series 6, because that obviously poor Steve, like I mean him seeing that and everything he's been through a lot, poor Steve, hasn't he? But yeah. Series 3, I mean there's so much to talk about in series 3. Like I mean let's just start from the beginning. Like you've got oh my god, what Daniel Mays, his character was Danny Waldron.
Yeah.
His in episode
My
1.
quiz ruined, by the way, at the end. I'm going to do a little quiz for Walter at the end, and he's already said about 3 of the answers. I thought he might not remember them, but
No, I'm looking forward to that. His death and at the end of episode 1, that was another big shock because obviously because each series obviously has their own sort of bent copper. So you'd obviously naturally think, right, yeah, he's going to be the one they're investigating, and it sort of took a turn, didn't it, investigating the whole Caddy sort of plot and the whole Sandsbrook cases. Because then, yeah, that was a big shock. I think it was built up well, especially and then when they go into the house and then there's the other 3 of his team in the room with him, and you're like, "Whoa, what happened?" But I mean, that was big for starters. I feel like I'm taking the spotlight. I feel like
I was going to say about that Danny Waldron character, that was a big shock for me. I mean, virtually the whole first episode was focusing on him. I mean, showing him going out to the pub and having a drink and everything and meeting a woman and stuff like that. It's like, all right, the next minute he's just killed off.
Yeah.
And he's bullying all these other teammates that he's got and stuff. And I was just like, very interesting character, but next minute he's just, oh, Jed, see you later. Jed says see you later. So, but obviously series 3 has got like my favorite episode of TV ever in, which I'll get to in a minute. But there's a great cliffhanger just before the last episode, I feel. That is just brilliant. I mean, the 2 greatest of all time Line of Duty characters to me in the same car.
Yeah.
And he's saying, don't send that text, or I'll kill you, basically. And he kills her and she sends it anyway.
The first time I watched that series, it was just like that was probably my favorite thing. I remember being sat in my living room just watching it, and I was just like, I think I literally screamed at the TV. I was just like, what? It was just because I mean, Doc Cotton is my favorite character in the show. I think Craig Parkinson is just like. I think his story arc as well is really interesting. Like, obviously, as you say, like from series 1, you think, what kind of is this guy about, sort of thing. Like, he's a bit of a dick, but then he obviously speaks the truth to AC-12 in the interview. But then, as you say, at the end of series 1, he's in coalition with Tommy Hunter, and then he's with AC-12 in 2 and 3, and then because there's a great episode before episode 5 that I think it's episode 3 or 4 that ends, and he's sat in his house and he's watching the news on his TV, and then all these cell phones just start ringing in his house, and then it just ends with like his face just like looking at the camera, and you're like, oh, it just gives you chills. Like he's just, yeah, he's obviously you hate the character, but he's just like he's just such an interesting character, I think, more than anything.
Did you feel like he wanted to get out of it a little bit there in series 3?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was becoming like sort of matey with Kate and stuff, wasn't he? And he was seeing the good side of the police force and stuff. And I thought like he was in too deep, and he knew he couldn't get out. But I don't know. I feel like he was trying to change a little bit over the course of that series. But
Yeah, and he got that commendation.
he couldn't.
He got that commendation, didn't he? After he set up that thing with Baines, I think was the character in that storage unit, where he set up the other noose that to try and frame him that he's going to like supposedly hang him, and then he like whacks himself with the handcuffs, and he obviously got the cut on his face, and then he's like gets awarded for bringing him in, sort of thing. And it's like he's just such a like in certain instances, like, yeah, as you say, he's such a conniving character. Then other things you think, where's he going with this sort of, yeah. But I mean, episode 5 was just crazy because you see him frame Steve with the car and the number plate. You just see him run off down that little alley, and it's just yeah, it's incredible.
That's when you start to really appreciate Lindsay Denton as well in that series, because she's just sort of going on her own little mission to find out what's going on and stuff like that. And I just thought she was brilliant in that series. Like I said, my 2 favorite characters of the show in that one.
She's got such an interesting character story with Steve as well, I think. Obviously, because obviously when Kate was undercover, she got sussed out pretty quickly in series 2 when they went to that storage building that was associated with Carly Kirk, the girl that went missing, and Kate arrives. Then she like sort of attacks Kate and like is like, I know you work for AC-12 and stuff. Then at the end of the series, when she's getting close with Steve, and you're thinking what's happening, then he's actually undercover, obviously investigating her, sort of thing. And then obviously in that, then in series 3 they bring up the whole, did he sleep with her, did he have sexual relations with her, did he plant that money in her room? And then later in the series they're like working together because they're sort of in the same situation what he's in. And then he's like, oh, she's stolen my pocketbook, and then that happens, and then it's just like, so I think the dynamic between them two is really interesting as well to watch, as well as that other part. Series 3 is just, yeah, it's incredible. And the final episode, the 90 minutes episode, was, oh my god, there's no better television like those episodes.
Sorry, Walter, go on.
No, you go, honestly.
No, I agree. I mean, that's one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen. I mean, when Doc got brought in there, I just like, there's no way out here. There's just no way out. He was sweating in the interrogation scene and everything, just trying to make stuff up half the time, looking at his phone and stuff. And I just thought, how are you going to get out of this? And somehow he does.
Urgent actor required. Yeah, it was mad. And then when that police officer shoots through the windows, it's just like,
Yeah.
because
Little things, isn't it? What Jeb puts in, you don't expect that officer to do that, but next minute it's in, because he's just stood there guarding the door, and he's just around. But next minute he's like a pivotal plot of him escaping.
You've seen it all before. Like they're always there in the interrogation scenes. Like I swear, in like series 2, they had them there and stuff, just as like security and protection. And then when it's like, it's the subvertation. I don't know if that's a word, of expectations, and it's just like, wow, you just wouldn't have thought of that possibility. But I mean, then there's that whole scene, that whole chase sequence with Kate, and they're at gunpoint with each other. And then when he takes his life for her, it's just like, it was, because it makes you think like, how do I feel about this character now? Like, it's like he's an idiot, and now he's like just sacrificed himself for her. And then he sort of gets brought into series 4 even with his dying declaration sort of thing. But I mean, that was a crazy series, mental.
Seeing Kate just like tooled up, ready to fucking chase him down, like, but
honestly, and she's hanging off the truck on That was like a James Bond audition tape for her. That was because Martin had his in series 6, but I mean, that was an amazing series. Really, really great.
Some shot as well, like from that bridge.
Yeah, I know. That was because obviously they're at the it was driving down the adjacent street and then just amazing. Because she's firearms trained as well, isn't she? Of course, so it makes sense.
Series 4 then, for me, one of the weaker series, I feel, but it's still good. I mean, I haven't disliked any series.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like series 2. I mean, a few big things did happen, but not too many compared to series 1 and stuff. I mean, the one that stands out, like you said, is where the forensic guy stood over Roz Huntley, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, was that the moment you put down, or?
Yeah, it was.
That was some cliffhanger, that really, wasn't it?
Oh, it was. Yeah, especially having to wait a week for that as well. It was like it was just when her eyes open at the end, and you're just like, oh fuck, right, okay, that is But I mean, it's because I've just finished rewatching that one. I think I wouldn't. It's a good series. I enjoy it. I think it's quite thin. It's quite thinly sort of dispersed compared to some of the others, especially after series 3, when it had quite a lot of plots running through it. This was just sort of like one sort of plot. For instance, it was mainly focused on like her character, and then there was this sort of discretion around H, obviously towards the end with Hilton and stuff. But it like some episodes in the middle weren't sort of like the stakes weren't as high. I don't think. Like I think it was like episode 3 or something where it just kind of felt not much sort of progress in terms of the story. What was his name? Michael Farmer was obviously the suspects that they had down for the Leonie Collisdale kidnappings and stuff. But I think I have to commend series 4 because it has one of the most hateable characters in TV that I've seen. Jodie, her assistant. I don't think I've hated
Oh yeah.
more.
I couldn't stand there.
I started to like rewatching. I was like, wow, she's such a like. Nah,
It's like sort of up her own arse, really. Is that it?
He's just like sucks up to her so much. Like, and
Oh
like,
yeah.
day is completely right. Like, let's handcuff your husband. He's definitely the one to blame. Like, obviously you would be, I suppose, if it's your boss and stuff. But nah, she was just like, But I suppose it's a testament to the acting, I suppose. But it was, I think the finale of series 4 was actually quite strong. To be fair, I liked the whole Hilton thing. I mean, he just killed himself, really, didn't he, with the shotgun and the on the harbour. But I liked the whole Jamie thing as well. Obviously, he was appointed to AC-12, and then it was when Manit, that was another thing when she was sort of undercover, not undercover, but she was passing information to Hilton. Obviously, wasn't she? And then there's that scene where she asks him to update his details, and then she hacks his account and gets him the dying declaration of Dot. And then he's obviously accused by Hastings of taking like hidden files and stuff, and then for him to be working for Hilton, and that point where he's got Steve at gunpoint, at the end was his character was quite good. To be fair, I quite liked him as a character. Oh, of course you've got Steve. That cliff down the stairs. That was
Balaclava man.
I remember watching that live, and I was just like, "Is he going to survive this?" Like that was crazy.
I always thought we were gonna. I don't think we ever found out who the balaclava man who threw him down the stairs actually was, did we?
I don't think we did.
Yeah, I
No,
thought we were gonna like sort of get that unveiled, but
because it was like you'd think, oh, is it was it Roz's husband? But no, it wasn't. And then obviously Jimmy Lakewell got arrested for perverting the course of justice, I believe. But I don't think they ever sort of. No, he would have just been an OCG member at the end of the day, wouldn't he? I suppose. So maybe they just thought it didn't matter who it was, but
I just thought because Balaclava Man got mentioned a few times. Like after that, I don't know if it was mainly to do with fans of the show or it got mentioned in the series. I can't quite remember, but this Balaclava Man just kept getting brought up and up.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Then obviously Tim Ifield put on a balaclava when he went into the shop to get those instruments, and then at the time you're like, oh, what? Like, was that a thing? But then obviously it wasn't really. But it was because then obviously in series 5 they're all wearing sort of balaclavas in
Yeah,
the FD when they're doing the ambush and all sorts. But that was sort of the main strand of that series, I think, wasn't it? With the whole who
yeah.
is the lava man sort of thing. But yeah,
It's
it was
probably just an OCG member, wasn't it? In the end of the day.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Definitely.
Series 5 had some standout moments, I feel. Obviously, the ambush at the start was brilliant, I thought. I mean, that was a good opening to the show. Obviously, John Corbett, getting killed by Ryan, that was a heavy, heavy moment.
So, yeah, that was such a sort of like because I haven't got into rewatching series 5 yet. We're onto it this week, but it was that scene where he's like he opens that door and there are those like I can't remember his children, but there's that guy just stood there making that sort of like arousing sound, and then from behind him,
yeah,
Ryan flipping, and then you see Lisa, I think her name is, at the end, just sort of walking to the camera, and she's kind of like physically upset, it seems, but you're just like, obviously
yeah.
he was UCO, and you're just like, what is? Yeah, it was a good series. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I think in terms of a lot of people, I think it's one of the weaker ones. I think it's the impression I get. But yeah, that was obviously a hell of a twist. And Manit's death at the end of episode 1 as well, when
Yeah.
Rob killed Manit as well. I thought that was quite shocking. But then obviously
Felt
the
a bit felt a bit bad for her. That was terrible what happened.
I did. I mean, she just had a kid for crying out loud. Like,
Yeah,
bless
yeah,
her. Like, because obviously I was shocked in series 4 when she was like transpired to be working sort of for Hilton a bit, but it was clear she didn't want to be, but I think it was just like the higher powers obviously getting involved and stuff. But I mean, it was sad to see her go. I did like her because she was in series 3 as well. I realized when rewatching it because I
yeah.
didn't think she came in until series 4, but it was sad to see her go. Yeah. I would have had more to say of it if I'd rewatched it. I think the whole Hastings thing was obviously a big sort of like, is he, isn't he, sort of thing. Because I do remember the finale, but I get more details if I'd seen it recently. But then there's the whole Jill Bigelow reveal, wasn't there, which was quite surprising. Because obviously, I don't know what you thought about that.
Um, I didn't expect it at all, to be honest. I mean, it's just weird still seeing her on that board a little bit with the four
Yeah,
members, and she's one of them. I don't know. She seems like the odd one out to me, apart from a few people who probably think the latest fella is, who we'll get to in a minute. But
yeah,
I don't know. It didn't really do anything for me. I thought the whole ending of Series 5 was a bit of a letdown, to be honest. I mean, nearly everyone got immunity. It's,
yeah.
it's like no one really got a big punishment, I didn't feel. I mean,
No,
it just seemed like a lot of characters got away with it, really. Was that
yeah. Because then,
I was in mum's just rewatched it, and I said that to her, and she went, "I know that's what I thought. I thought the same." So yeah, I just
yeah,
think a lot of people didn't get to come up really.
I'll have to give you a message when I've rewatched series 5. I'll be able to say more. But can you remember the scene in the bathroom? Because that sticks out to me. Because it was one of the police officers, wasn't it? Did they try and kill Jill?
I
There was
can't
I
remember.
remember a scene in a bathroom. I think Jill had left to go to the go to the bathroom or something. I think there was an attempt made on her life, and then I think Steve or Kate came in and like stopped it.
Oh, the bathroom in the station.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
I can't remember fully, but I seem to recall that did happen. But obviously, she didn't die. She's in prison now. But it was I hope she is. Otherwise, I've just got that completely wrong.
oh, I know. Sort of Lisa got away with it, didn't she? Really,
Yeah,
she got put into witness protection and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But it was weird because we hadn't seen Jill since series 3, had we? And it was sort of there was the thing of like, oh, is there some sexual tension in her and Hastings? Like she obviously was trying to like take out some dates and stuff. And there's that whole thing with him and his wife. Um, and then to see her again in series 5 is kind of like, right, okay, she's been brought in for a reason. And
yeah.
then, I'm the same as you. I wasn't like huge on it, but I wasn't annoyed. I was kind of like, all right, okay, I suppose it makes sense. But cause it was just weird seeing her like, because in series 3, like she had like kind of shortish, like brown hair sort of thing, and then like she just looks completely different in that series, longer hair, and I was kind of like
an almost different character, really.
Interesting, wasn't it? But I mean, I just think Adrian Dunbar, like Hastings, he's just like, he has the best lines. He's just his character is just. I was glad that he wasn't H, and I think that was the only issue with Series 5. I think because it was sort of like they were bigging it up, like he was so under suspicion of it, and you're thinking, oh, is this too obvious, or is it like, is it him? And it was just sort of like, to have that much reliance on one thing for the finale, I think is what might have brought it down a little bit. Because obviously, like in say Series 3, for example, you've got the aftermath of what's happened, what are the actions of Dot did. You've got the actions of him framing Steve. You've got all the stuff, what's going to happen. But with Series 5, it's like, oh, is Hastings Ben? Will we find out, yes or no, sort of thing. And for that to be the sole motive of the finale, I think brought it down a little bit. So when you found out, it was like, okay. And then do you know what I mean, sort of thing?
Yeah, because I remember thinking, watching that, going, well, I think it was like the one just before the last episode where I was just thinking, well, there's no way going to be him anyway. So I thought it was more him this series than last, to be honest, even when he was getting interrogated. So
yeah, I'm interested to talk to you about that because I thought similar, actually. Yeah, but I mean, it was a good series. Right? I'm looking forward to rewatching it. Stephen Graham was great. He's a great actor. He really is. And it was.
that didn't sit well with him either, though. I mean, like, I thought Jed sort of cheated the audience a tiny little bit there, because when he's saying kill the police officer at the start and he'd been involved in other killings and stuff, how the hell are you meant to guess that he's going to be an undercover police officer? I mean, he just goes too extreme. And I know they make it out that he's too extreme to do it and he's gone overboard, but I don't know. I don't think anyone was going to guess that he was an undercover officer. I mean, there probably was people, but
It's
the majority.
yeah, because he obviously ordered the murder of Manit and stuff, and it's like, and then it was like, oh, he is the undercover cop, and you're like, oh, okay, like you'd think initially like that doesn't really add up, sort of thing, like because he's obviously he was very deep undercover there, wasn't he? Like I can't remember who that character woman was who works for the other AC department, I think, when they go to her at the end and she reveals it to them. But she was like, has he been undercover like 2 years or something? I think it might have been.
Like that. Yeah, I think he just lost all contact with everyone
Yeah.
in the police force, and then I think he got in touch with Steve halfway through the series somehow.
Yeah. And then I remember that there was that scene with them in the van. I think it was mid-series. And then I think Hastings was in the van. I think he ordered them to not kill John, because I think obviously when we talk about this series, there was that whole thing there as well. But and then I think Steve goes against his orders or something because of what he believes to be the case or something. As I say, I haven't watched it recently, so I'm quite edgy on it. But it was an interesting. I think it was vastly different to the ones that had come before it. I think because I think
I thought that
the focus was quite unclear compared to the ones before it in terms of what was sort of going on. Obviously, as you say, like subverted the expectations, sort of a little feeling cheated, sort of, and it was just like it wasn't bad at all. As you said, it's a bad series of the show. I just think it was different and it worked, but I think yeah.
you got a lot of viewpoints from the OCG in that one as well, compared to all the other seasons. I thought. I mean, there was a lot of focus within that little group there.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Which I think was needed, to be fair. I think it was good to have that because there has been talks about previously, and there'd obviously been this whole group from Series 1 that was set up with Tommy Hunter and everything, and then the whole thing with like little Ryan on the bike. Oh, we didn't expect that little Ryan for Benek. And that's it. That's another thing from Series 1. That scene at the end of the episode where he's like gonna cut off Steve's fingers, like that was crazy. Like, but I mean,
I thought that's another quiz question there, but go on.
Oh, you should be telling me. He's and they're setting up this group from the start. So seeing that like perspective, as you say, from them, it was definitely interesting to have that sort of embedded sort of thing with them as that group. From you've been on the outside looking in. Now we can look at it from the inside. So it was definitely needed. I think obviously coming into Series 6 as well, but yeah. And then at the end of Series 5 as well, when you see Ryan in a police training.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that's good little twist on the end, wasn't it? I mean, doing the whole Departed style thing that Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio do, but
yeah, definitely, definitely, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
sorry, one sec. Okay, so we've gone through over a few of our favorite characters there, but who would you nail down as like your top three characters from the show? Then I'd probably go with you've got to go with Ted. I feel personally, and I'd probably go with Lindsay and Dot myself.
Yeah, Dot, I think, is probably my favorite. Yeah,
Same.
I have to say Steve. I've always loved Steve. Like, I know it's quite a, not cliche, but it's quite an obvious choice, I suppose. Is it an obvious choice? I don't know, because I think he's
Well,
not
he's
a
one of the main stars, so it's not a bad thing to say that because the show is centered around him and the other two, isn't it? So I don't think that's a bad choice at all or anything.
I think no, yeah, he's quite. His journey that he's been on, like from series one, where he's the only one sort of like testify about the truth and stuff, and like he doesn't want to go over the whole cover up situation. And I think like the way his characters develop. I remember at the end of one of the series one episodes where he sends a text to Hastings and Kate saying Gates has won, like he's too much, I'm out, sort of thing. And then you see him as this like really little like determined character who sort of like gets under the rails a bit of Kate and Ted in some ways, and then just like throughout the series, you just see him progress and develop, and that the stuff he goes through, like it's probably the characters like suffered the most, like the
Yeah.
people been lose their lives, that like been thrown down the stairs, like been framed for murder, like he hasn't had it easy, bless him. But I
Like
mean,
that guy in series 6 asking him about all the partners who've died and stuff.
I know it was a hard scene to watch, and he's just like, I mean, I love Martin Compton. He's a great actor, and Steve has always been a favorite. So yeah, Dot, Steve. I'm trying to think of some maybe smaller ones. You know what? I might have to say Chloe Bishop. Bless her. I
Yeah.
mean, she was great. She was. I will talk about her more when we talk about Series 6. But I mean, I can't not mention Hastings, as you say. Like he's just like you can't not love him. Like Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and the wee donkey. He's just like,
He's just got the best quotes, hasn't he? Do you know what? Like, I sometimes I have to pause the show to write down what I'm going to write. And it might finish like 15 minutes later than everyone else, but I have to because if I write down while I'm still watching, I'll miss it. But
yeah,
at times I just have to pause it as well because I was laughing at him. Like
he's
some
so.
of the quotes he comes out with. I mean, some of them aren't even meant to be that funny, but it's just the way he puts the
I know,
quotes out.
I know, and it's the fact that some of the lines he delivers, like, it's not like he stops to like take the time to say it. He'll just like say it
Yeah,
in a sentence, and to him it's like, oh, it's nothing. But then it's like, well, if you listen to it, you're like, what did he just say? Whole thing is like, he's completely like, and he's just like, he follows everything to the letter of the law. He's very
yeah.
sort of like, and he's just, yeah, I love him. Yeah, he's great.
Even look, there was even a moment that I couldn't stop laughing at, and probably I'm very easily pleased. But it was even when that Jonesy officer got killed and they went back to the station. He went, "It's a terrible loss. It's a terrible loss." That's the way he said it. I mean, it's not even meant to be funny, but it's just the way he delivers the line.
I know
uh,
exactly what I mean. I know exactly what I mean. He's just, yeah, he's great. I mean, Kate's great as well. She's a good character, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, because in series 2 there was that whole thing of like she was having an affair with the husband of that police officer that got killed. Um,
We don't really know much about her family, do we? The
you
background
do,
and everything.
because you know that she was in a partnership, and I think that's the reason that they ended up splitting was because of her actions in series 2, I believe. And then we know she's got a kid. I think in previous series, I can't remember which one it was. It might have been series 5 actually, when they did sort of explore a little bit of her home life when she like goes home and sees her son a bit. But it's not explored a great deal. And I think more so with Steve, I suppose, because the only thing that Steve's really got going for him at the minute is his job. Like he's obviously very passionate about his work, and that's the only thing that he's really got. Like he sleeps with suspects and people of interest. I
Yeah.
mean, like, but it's just his job that, and you really feel for him, like especially in the recent series, and like some of the scenes at home where you do feel for him because you can see how much he loves the job and how much he just wants justice for whoever. But it's like, it's interesting because I think each of them have had little bits, especially Hastings in series 5 when you see him living in a hotel. He's got like all these outstanding bills to pay for his room, like his toilet's broken or something, and it's like you think, gosh, okay. And then this whole marriage thing. So Jed does do a good job at exploring the personal lives of these characters. I think even the people of interest, like in each series, he's thought it through. The guy, he's very clever at building these characters to make you really sort of care for them as a whole, I think. But yeah,
I think he does explore them in dribs and like in parts, doesn't he? But I don't think he goes into it too much. I mean, sometimes there's stuff that he probably just doesn't want us to know, so we can just move. So he's only got an hour for each episode, hasn't he? I mean, he's got to focus on the story and stuff. So it's not really a big deal that we don't go into Kate's
no,
background and stuff, and we just see Steve sitting at home here and there because we are there for the detective sort of things and stuff like that. But when I was getting my haircut, my barber actually said to me that he thought Kate Fleming was actually H because we don't know anything about her, and the
it's.
boyfriend won't talk to her and stuff. And I was just thinking, well, you got a point there.
I mean, it could it still be a possibility?
Yeah.
It's. I
Well,
mean,
we'll talk about maybe a 7th series soon, but
yeah, no, definitely. But and I think that, yeah, I remember you saying on your review, I think last night about your barber. Yeah, it's just as you said, like, everyone's watching it, so it's just great to sort of speculate. But I did see that theory going around. I mean, everyone's been under suspicion, I think, over Twitter and stuff. But I mean, it's yeah, it's definitely interesting. Who would you say? I have a question for you. Out of all the series, who would you say the person who's been your favorite sort of person of interest? Obviously, the
well,
corrupt they've been investigating.
that was my next question to you
Oh,
because I know what you're saying. Well, I will answer it first, but I know what you're saying because each series has got a person of interest and it builds the story around them, doesn't it? Like Tony Gates, John Corbett, Lindsay Denton,
yeah.
what's her name off series 4?
Ross Huntley.
Ross Huntley, yeah. And this one we had Joe Davidson. At series 3, it was Danny Waldron, ran it, but
Yeah,
me, a bit of Dot as well, really. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I really like Joe in this series. I did. I mean,
Mm.
I felt bad for her and stuff like that. But I thought she had more backstory than most of the others. But um, yeah, I'd have to go. Lindsay Denton is one, isn't she? From series 2, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I would have to go with her. I think. I mean, she was very mysterious. I didn't know whether to get on her side or not, which is like with the case with most of them. But in the end, she just became one of my favorite characters. But
Mm.
yeah, as an exploration thing, like a detective work around a character, I'd probably say series 3 because Danny Waldron was sort of killed off early, but there was a lot to unpack with his
Oh,
character, I thought.
yeah. I'm
And
probably
when
going
you
to.
learn why he's doing what he's doing and being a bank copper in the first place to try and catch
Yeah,
these people who abused him and stuff, I do think that as an interesting backstory altogether and what to unpack, I do think he was probably. I mean, I know he's only in it for one episode, but there was a lot of interesting things to do with him, I thought.
yeah, definitely. I think it's funny thinking back on them. I think in each series, the person under interest has said to AC12 at one point, "I'm not bent," like because
Yeah.
obviously they're not going to want to say that they are, obviously. But I think, yeah, I'm probably going to agree with you about Lindsay Denton. I think just her character, as I said before, as a whole, it's like she starts off like quite even when she first answers that phone call to like be called out to duty, it's like you think and how she sort of interacts with some of the other officers at first, she's very sort of like headstrong, sort of like, yeah, this is happening. She knows about herself, she's very sure of these things. And then with the whole Kate thing, she's very, very intriguing. And you're thinking throughout that whole series, you're thinking, oh, is she or isn't she? That's one of the only series. Series 6 a little bit as well, as you say. I think like with Tony Gates, you think, okay, yeah, especially after episode 2 when he I think. I mean, a little bit, but I think you get more of an understanding of like he is kind of bent earlier on, whereas Lindsay, like, is she, isn't she?
Yeah.
You think, well, yeah, he's killed the guy who put his
Done a
gun.
much better. They've done a much better way of keeping it a mystery, I thought.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, and Series 5 is just an awkward one, isn't it? Because obviously he's meant to be the person of interest, but then he's an undercover cop. So then and that's who they're investigating. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say Lindsay Denton too is my favorite. She's a great character, and she is she has some great lines as well. I think she's quite a misunderstood character, we could say. But yeah, she was great. Yeah.
What did you think of Joe Davidson then overall? Because she was the new person of interest, played by Kelly MacDonald. What did you make of her? We'll go on to series 6 now, probably.
Yeah,
Talk a bit more about series 6.
yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, she was good. She was good. I think from the first episode of series 6, it was very interesting because the things that happened, it wasn't necessarily a conventional series opener for the show as a whole. I don't think, because I think a lot of stuff happened, especially. I think your view on a character can often be determined by the actions of what happens. So I think naturally, at first, when they get this suspect, um, what was his name?
Terry Boyle.
Terry Boyle. Sorry, yeah, I was thinking of the actor's name, Tommy Jessup. When they get the suspect, and it's Buckles, isn't it, that says no, we don't have enough evidence to go yet, and the whole CCTV patrol, they're not with it, so they go in the morning, and then there's that whole scene where they're driving really fast, and she sees at the corner of her eye the robbery, so they go and stop that. And naturally, I'm obviously thinking like, how is she seeing that? Like, what's all that about, sort of thing. So I was a bit kind of hesitant about her at first. I was thinking, what is she about, sort of thing? Who is she? And then you're thinking, yeah, that then caused a delay in getting the suspect, sort of thing, and like lost time. I thought she was good. I think I wasn't as invested in her as I was people of previous series. I think because it was, yeah. As a whole, though, as the series went on, I liked her more as the series went on. I think.
Yeah.
Um, Once you got to realize, sort of, I think it was at the end of episode 2, where she gets given that phone, and there's that scene. I didn't laugh at it at first, but when I rewatched it, I did find it a little bit funny where she's in the car banging and screaming at the windows. I think a lot of bless her. But overall, I did like her. She wasn't one of the strongest in my opinion. I thought Kelly MacDonald did a great job of sort of portraying the character. It was weird because like in the first episode when she was obviously been with Farida and then she's leaving her house and she said that line where she's like, "Oh, me and Kate have been sleeping on and off the job for like weeks now," and that never really came up again. There was that bit at the end of the episode where they're like holding hands briefly, and you're thinking, okay, have they just been like sleeping together? And then it's like, oh, they are quite close, like they went out for a couple of meals or whatever. So there was a lot of intrigue in her as a character, and then I just think as the series went on, obviously she was person of interest being questioned, but then it was like sort of a bit with series 3, the interest kind of like flipped on sort of the picture away from her a little bit, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same as you. I mean, I think as the series went on, I started to get into a character more, a little bit invested. But at first, I was like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if Jed just I mean, I don't know if she just said that to Farida about Kate because she wanted to just get rid of Farida.
Yeah,
Maybe they weren't as close as she was implying there.
yeah,
And that led a lot of people to believe that Kate was undercover as well, really. Just like she's getting deep in with, Kelly MacDonald's character and stuff.
I think I said that to you on the first week when I replied to your story. I think I was thinking either she's very, very deep undercover or she has just naturally moved away from AC-12. Because like, there's that scene in the first episode where Steve flashes her in the car and they have that little chat. And at first I was thinking, is she really deep undercover and only Hastings knows that she's undercover or what? But then obviously this series I think was set like 18 months after series 5, I think. That's a lot of time has passed. But yeah, she was a good character. Kelly MacDonald did a great job. I think especially in episode 6, that was the long interrogation one that was like half an hour. That was some great acting, some of the best acting in the show, arguably. I think, even though most of it was just no comment, I think like even down to her facial expressions, it was clear she was like suffering, like when they were questioning her about her family life, and then when they tell her like about the whole, oh my god, that whole homozygotic plot line where like he's her uncle and dad, like I was just like,
I
God,
know, I
like
know.
so, like I was like, Christ, like Mother of God. It was like crazy.
That
But
was a
no,
great thing in that interrogation scene, wasn't it?
it was
But
great.
I think this is where Line of Duty does sometimes shine best is the interrogation scenes. And Ted is just at his best there, isn't he? But like you said, shit, that was great acting from Kelly MacDonald, and that she really did look distressed and upset,
Absolutely.
and she was very, very convincing. Overall, I thought she was a good character, a really
Mhm.
good character. Probably not one of the best, like you said, but I thought she'd done a decent job,
Yeah,
and she's
she
been
was
the most
strong.
interesting ones of this series, definitely.
It was also quite interesting. One more point, sorry. It was quite interesting
Oh,
early in the series just to think of like there were some scenes with her and Kate where like there'd be an inquiry, and then Kate would go to like say something, and then she'd like Joe would almost like take the back seat a little bit and let Kate sort of do the
mm,
whole thing. And then I think it was like episode 5 where they go to the OCG hotspots to try and like get the or to go and like try and see who they are and stuff. And it's Kate that's obviously instigating that and sort of like leading that. And Joe's like, oh yeah, yeah, Kate, of course, of course. And there's just a lot of intrigue, I think, behind the character. You're thinking like, well, she's meant to be the temporary SIO, I think, after Buckles went to prison. And then you're thinking like, well, she should be sort of commanding that. Then obviously you're
yeah,
thinking after all the communication on the laptop, you're like, oh, what is like it's crafted very well because there's always that intrigue of what is happening
yeah.
enough for you to think what is happening, but it's done very well. Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Ryan then? Ryan Pilkington. Now he was in series one as that little brat. I just couldn't stand him. I hated him in series one. He was in series five for a bit, but this is definitely the biggest role he's had.
Oh
Responsibility he's had on that character. Um, what did you think of him? Because I thought he was like, even though we were trying to find out who this H character was, I thought he was the main sort of villain of the
yeah,
show. Like, I mean, not every series has a big main villain, but he was definitely the center of the bad guys, if you like, the
yeah,
OCG in this series.
absolutely. I mean, he was just. I mean, can I just first off say Gregory Piper, who plays him? I mean, amazing. Like he's like 20, 21, 22, I think. I mean, just like an incredible actor, amazing. I think I mean, especially like, he's been with the show for like 10 years to say from like series one. So it's crazy. Like, I watched an interview with him on this morning, I think, and he said like obviously when he was doing a series one, he had no idea obviously that he'd get called back into being like series 5 and 6. And I think even well, I obviously yeah, in series 5 it's meant to lead on to think oh he's going to be in the next series, but he was an amazing character. I think because he's first gets brought in episode 2, I think when they go to see the crime scene of Carl Banks being dead, and he's just there, and you're like, oh crap, he's here, that's him. And then the whole scene in episode 3, I think it's episode 3, where they're driving Terry Ball back to his approved premises, and then he ends up sending the car into water, killing that police officer, and saving Terry's life. Um, he's just like he's a character. He's really, really great, and I can't not mention that scene where he gets called to Joe's office, and she's like, "We're gonna have to move you on," and he just stands there, and like his face is just like, "Oh my!" He's terrifying. Like he's just like, I couldn't believe it.
If looks could kill, really, isn't it?
Honestly, I was scared sat watching the TV. Honestly, one thing that did annoy me about the series, because it's at episode 5 when they with the gunpoint. I think obviously you're thinking, I mean that whole scene where like before where she gets told that she needs to get rid of Kate sort of thing, and then she goes into like the bathroom and then she starts crying and stuff. Like it was obviously she'd been like ordered by someone to do this. And then with Ryan and stuff, I was annoyed that he did just die. I would have loved to see an interrogation scene with
Yeah.
him. I was really hoping we'd get that, like him and Steve, like head to head, especially after what happened in series 1. I would have died to see that. That was the only thing of the whole. That was my probably biggest gripe of the whole series. I would have loved to see that happen, and the fact that he was just sort of dead, I was like, okay, okay, but as yeah, I don't know what you thought about that.
Yeah, it would have been Steve getting his own back for sort of getting tortured by the OCG and him
Yeah.
basically when he was a kid and stuff. I thought really good point that Walter. I mean, he just sort of went out the show really quickly, didn't he? I mean, I was sort of disappointed in that. Another moment that really stood out to me as well was when he said to Joe, "Jimmy Lakewell's been killed," and she goes, "I think it was Jimmy
Yeah.
Lakewell got killed," and she went, "What for?" And he went, "Being a rap man."
Yeah.
And you think
That
he's
was-
going to reply in a a professional manner, and he just says it like that to her face as if like it's a warning, basically. And he just comes behind her when she's walking home and with the gun to her head and says,
Mm.
"Easy as that." He's just
Oh, oh yeah, of
he's
course.
not scared. He might only be 21 or whatever, but he's just not. He's not scared to pull the trigger. Him.
He's not
But
at all.
I thought he was a great character and one you just love to hate. Really, I mean,
Oh,
most of the talk on Twitter was about him on
yeah,
social media
yeah.
throughout the series.
Pretty. I mean, even in episode 5, when they, as I say, when they go into like the 3 OCG hotspots, and it's AC12 go to it as well, and I think it's Chloe that sees him making that call from the burner phone outside one of the buildings to whoever, and then they're transporting to the next one, and there's a scene with Kate and him where he's like going to get into a car, and she's like, "Oh no, you're coming with me," sort of thing, and like you can, it's just his face, and you could just know that it's like he's not clearly been made aware that this is going to happen. He's just sort of like obviously in his head, he's like, "What is the best thing for me to do in this situation?" But it's oh, and that he's had so many great moments in the series. That when Kate was like sort of interrogating him in the office, I think it was
Oh, yeah.
episode 4 or at the end of episode 3 after that whole
Just after the lakes incident,
yeah,
wasn't it?
and he's like, and she's like, "Oh, you thought you heard a gunshot, but there was no gunshot," and he's like, "Oh, must have been mistaken, mom," or something, and it's just like, wow, he's just so like. Because you think in that instance, you're like, wow, like he's very convincing, but then you always just know that he's like, he's a great character. He was,
Yeah.
yeah, a really great character for the show, definitely. And as you say, even after like the stuff he did in series 5, like thinking about like him killing Corbett and Manit, and you just like, Jesus,
This
Mary.
dangerous guy is in this environment with all these people who are trying to stop him,
I know,
and they don't even know about it. He's
I
just
know.
a very dangerous character.
That was a funny thing, obviously, because if when there's that scene when Kate first came back to AC12 and she's sat with Steve looking at the computer, and he's like Ryan Pilkington, and then he gets his thing up from like series 1. He's like, "Oh, the little bastard" or something,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh," but then Steve had like come in with like Chloe and the rest of AC12 into the MIT office at Hillside, and had been like surrender all the Operation Lighthouse files. And then obviously Ryan was there, but you always like saw him like keeping his head sort of down, making a coffee, because that was sort of his role at first. Like he's like the coffee tea boy sort of character,
Yeah.
but
I loved
he
it when he was just looking at Joe all the time in the office as well, just looking right across through
yeah,
and doing stuff like.
yeah, like keeping an eye on it, like I'm here for a reason. Like very very
Like he
good.
was basically just there to watch air, basically.
I know, I know, yeah, literally, and even that scene, that gun point thing at the end of episode 5, where he's like, "Oh, you're screwed," sort of thing to Kate, and she's like, "Oh well, they've all got surveillance on you," and then he's like, "Shit, I hadn't thought about that," and then he's like, "Oh, did you know this to Joe?" and sort of thing, and that's when you think, "Oh well, he's not so smart after all," sort of thing. But then that's when we also knew that had all been cut anyway from like Carmichael had cut all those because they had a lot on and they were spending a lot of their funds on like all these surveillance sort of things, weren't they? But he was a very well thought out character, definitely, and it was great to see him back. And I just, as I said, I just wish we could have had that sort of extra thing from him.
Yeah, that would
But
have been a great moment. I'm surprised he never done that. Actually, now that you mention it, Walter, I didn't really think of that until you mentioned it. To be honest,
the
that would have been great if he have a bit of back and forth with Steve there. But
thing that
even
got me,
even if they were going to kill him off, a better death maybe. It was just off screen, wasn't it?
yeah, like you just they come to the crime scene, he's got 2 holes in his chest, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But
Kind of
what
reminded. Have you seen Game of Thrones, by the way?
I haven't, no, that
Oh
I need.
no, I won't say nothing. But it's kind of like a character's death and that you hate all the way through it, and it's just nothing. But that's what it kind of reminded me of.
No, I
um,
on my watch list, definitely. One thing that annoyed me about that whole part of the show was because did you watch the trailer of the series before the series started?
I watched the yeah, I watched trailer and I watched the trailer for the finale as well.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah. So yeah, the 7 episodes. Sorry, because in the trailer it showed scenes with Kate in that we hadn't seen yet. So naturally, I was thinking, well, she's not going to be dead. So it's either like Ryan's dead or the bullets just missed or something. But then I was thinking, oh, maybe they could have filmed extra, because they sometimes do. They sometimes film extra scenes that aren't even in the show just for like I was a red herring. So that hasn't been done before. So I was kind of like, obviously it was a big cliffhanger. Like, oh, what's happened, sort of thing. Like anything could have, it's line of duty, anything could have happened. But I was sort of having that thing of like, well, Kate's not going to be dead now. I wasn't to say that she wouldn't die later on, but I was thinking, I doubt, like, because there was that one scene that was in the finale where she comes out the back of the van saying like, "Armed police," and I was thinking, well, that's probably going to happen. So I was thinking she's not going to be dead.
And then there's just a little deleted scene, Harley.
Yeah, just as a, because he could have done that. It could have been a red herring, but I mean, yeah, that was the only little thing I think with the whole trailers and stuff. Because they also released the first teaser before that trailer of the clip from episode 6 where Hastings like, you'll be treated fairly with the protection of the law, and there's got the helicopters with like Kate and Joe there, and they released that as well. So it's just kind of I don't know, but it's just the marketing, I think.
It messes with your head if you think about it too much, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's better probably not to, but that's just my mind. I think it just like delves into these things.
A lot of people were bringing that up underneath in the comments about the trailer. She's definitely not dead because she's in the next one and stuff. So a lot, you're not on your
Yeah.
own. So one thing I'm going to ask you, and I know the answer's probably going to be yeah, but was your mind changing every single week on who was going to be this H character, or did you sort of narrow it down straight away to a few characters? Or
I mean, yeah, it was. It was. I think I was pretty set on either Carmichael or Andrea Weiss. I was like, because I think mainly the reason was, especially after, was it episode 3, I think, where he first gets told that they're going to be disbanded and he's going to have an early retirement. And I was thinking, well, I was like, please say it's her, because then obviously that wouldn't happen and stuff. So naturally, I was like, I'm hoping it's her, because if it was, then everything would be fine with AC-12. But then as the show went on, that's why I think it was so clever. And obviously, we'll talk about the finale in a minute. But who it was, I think, was really clever and well done, sort of thing. But then I was like, oh, it could be Osborne. So it was. Thought it was either going to be like Osborne, Carmichael, or Andrea, sort of thing. Those are my top 3, and I kind of thought, right. But Carmichael wasn't even in the picture, to be fair, because she didn't come in until episode 6, I think it was. So I mean, it was mainly Osborne and Weiss, I think, which was probably for a lot of people, to be fair. But it was, yeah. I mean, up until the finale, when I was having different thoughts, but yeah. What about you?
yeah, I mean, I had Lomax down. I was thinking Chloe Bishop might be. I was at one point I was convinced that Ted was because I think he was in the room on that interview where he said, "I can't." I think Jimmy Lakewell said, "I can't speak. People are listening," and then the camera zoomed on Chloe, and then we thought, but Ted was in the room as well.
Yeah.
And just before that, Ted went, "There's no Ben Coppers in this AC-12." He was adamant about it, and I was like, are you sure, Ted? I mean, how do you know that for 100%?
Yeah.
I don't know. There was just a few things in episode 5 that were throwing me off about Ted, but then when it comes to the next episode, it changed my mind again. And in the end, I narrowed it down to Carmichael and Osborne. And lo and behold, looks like the both of us were wrong.
Yeah. No, definitely. Oh, sorry. Am I still here?
Right, sorry, you're back on.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely. I think.
I never thought it was. I never thought it was Buckles in a million years. Like
No,
it was just. I thought it was too obvious, and he weren't the type of character because the way he acts and stuff. I just never thought it was him in a million years. And
no,
a lot of people were guessing him underneath at the start, but I was just like, nah.
I didn't either. Not at all. And I think one thing that really got to me, because obviously with Twitter and fan speculation, the one thing I kept seeing was like the whole Chloe Gates thing. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, is she the daughter of Tony Gates?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "There's no way. There's no way." Like I was thinking, like,
Too much of an age gap, wasn't there? I believe.
it should have been like 16 or something. I was like, "There's no way." Like, obviously she's young, but it was because some people were like so set on that idea, and I was like, "There's no way." And I was convinced. I never wanted to believe she was Ben, so I didn't really think of her in that in that way at all. And I think it's similar with Chris, I think, because I was thinking to introduce a new character of Chris in this series, it would have kind of been, for me, it would have been a disservice if it had been him. So I was kind of just hoping that it wasn't, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why you might think that it could have been them two, but I was just hoping that it would have been someone that was kind of linked to the show throughout, say, like. But I mean, to be fair, Andrea Weiss wasn't. But I just, obviously, for my reasons I gave, I was thinking that it could have been her. But I think Osborne was obviously in it from the start, heading Steve's original department and things. But I mean, yeah, I mean, do you just want to get into Buckles now, or do you have anything you wanted to say before?
No, I was just gonna say now, like, what did you think of? I only wanted to mention, would you mind changing every week because of how good a writer he is and all the comments underneath that. Every single character in this show, this series, was guessed underneath my comments. Even Ryan Pilkington, even Kate, even Steve, everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just a credit to Jed if he's watching. But yeah, I just want to get on to the finale now. I mean, a lot of people were disappointed about this big reveal and stuff. I know you just said you sort of liked it, but is that your overall feeling? Was you not too disappointed compared to everyone else?
I was meant to watch it again before we had this chat, but I just haven't had time to get around to it. Initially, I was somewhat disappointed. I think I watched it live, obviously, and when it finished, I was kind of like, I was like, I was like, huh, okay. Like, I wasn't angry at it. I didn't hate the episode. I was just like, okay. But then I obviously was thinking about it like throughout the rest of the night and then Monday and stuff. And the more I think about it, the more I like it. I think once I've now processed what sort of happened, like when it was Buckles, I was like, oh, okay. Like as you say, it was a surprise. Like obviously him being sent to prison early in the series, it was kind of like he was sort of out of the picture. So naturally, I was like thinking, well, he's already in prison, so it wouldn't really be him. It didn't really cross my mind. And then because there was that whole thing with Fairbank as well, wasn't it? Because Joe had said that she thought that he was her father, and obviously he couldn't really say anything because he had, I think it was dementia that he had, and he couldn't really answers as we'd previously seen. It didn't annoy me that it was how it was. I think it was executed quite interestingly. I think the first half was sort of like quite not fast paced, but it was like covering things in quite a systematic way. And the second half was sort of like quite not meandering, but definitely toned down a bit. And I think it's funny you mentioned the whole Ted Hastings speculation because it was only in the final episode really, and I was kind of thinking, is it Ted? Because I don't know about you, but I noticed a lot of camera work with him.
Yeah.
Like, there was some scenes where the camera just like turned to him, and I said to the people I was watching it with, I was like, "Am I being played here?" Because I was honestly like thinking it's too obvious. But there was some scenes. What was in particular? I think it was after Steve and Kate had spoken to Joe, and they were going to the prison to get Fairbank. But there was a lot of camera work where it was just like edging towards Hastings and stuff, and I was like,
yeah, I noticed it, mate. I noticed it.
Like, what is happening here? But it was, I mean, I just can't get over Chloe. I just can't get over. I think she literally throughout the whole series, it's like she's been handing them everything on like a gold plate. I mean, I love the main characters, of course I do, but I just think like bringing her in and sort of like she did everything. She did everything.
Little memes going around, wasn't there? Just saying, I'm just carrying the whole investigation on my own with a picture of it.
literally, and like especially in the finale where she like literally cracked the case and gave them Buckles like on a plate. I was literally like, wow, like definitely thing. The whole like cyber sort of thing that was going on. Like she was like just the underdog. Really, she just had it all. Like she was very. And that scene with Steve and Kate at the pub at the end, that was really nice. That was really nice. Because a lot of people were like, oh, they couldn't have invited Chloe and stuff. Obviously, I think with the finale, it was needed to be them two sort of thing. Because now I'm thinking, like, could there be more than a friendship here between the two of them sort of thing?
Just thinking that, yeah.
I'm sort of like, I mean, I wouldn't be angry if there was anything more because it was like they've got such a good friendship, and I think obviously neither of them have really like settled with anything. Obviously, there's that whole Steve and Steph sort of thing that was going on. But I mean, yeah, it was really nice. I was surprised we didn't see Steph again. I know we heard her on the phone a little bit, because I think that is one thing I think Series 6 sort of lacked compared to some of the other series. I think there's that, cause Farida as well. That was another part I wanted to say. Like, obviously we saw her in episode 1 and 2, and then she went to prison, and then we saw that prison guard again, and we're like, oh fuck, like, and then we didn't really see her again until the very end when they do that whole sentence thing, and then she's been brought back, and you just think, oh, Frida, yeah. And it's the same sort of thing with Steph. Like, she's been brought in, like, we see him sleep with her, we see him find the money, and then she gets brought up, like, but only in like calls and like missed calls with him and stuff. But I think there's a lot to tie up in that episode, and it could have done with being a little longer. I think at times it felt like there was like a checklist, and you kind of thought, okay, okay, okay. It was almost like, it felt like they were sort of just going through these points and sort of like just covering stuff best they could. But it wrapped up, to be fair. Like, I mean, it sort of did it, and I thought the whole Ted, how he, like, what he did at the end with Carmichael, that, because there's that scene obviously with Steve, Kate, and Ted where they were like not interrogating him, but they're like asking him these questions. Then he obviously admitted to it, which was quite shocking. It was quite an interesting scene, because it was obviously the facts that he wanted to lure John out of the undercover, and that's what got him killed, sort of thing. So obviously there was that responsibility and that guilt on his behalf.
Honest cop, isn't he? Really, he's just honest.
Bless him.
Yeah, he's honest to the bone, isn't he? He just he feels like he's got to say it. He was kind of relieved there, I think, at the end.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, 100%. It was but it was a good finale. I think it's interesting what Jed says about it. Like, it was very much, I think, a reflection on today's sort of society. At the same, like, a lot of the lines that like have been said throughout the series, like, most notable one was Ted, when he says that, like, a barefaced liar promoted to our highest office, sort of thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
very sort of, you know, relevant to today's sort of society, sort of thing as well. And I think it just sort of depicts at the end, like, there's not always a happy ending, and like, even though we didn't have a huge shootout, I mean, I know we had that van hijack thing, which was a nice little scene, but
That was a really clever scene, that. But
oh, it was, yeah. But I think,
I had to just flick back a second and go, what happened there? Why is
yeah,
Steve in this van? And then I noticed that when he went on the bridge.
into the bridge, yeah, because that was the thing. Because when the van reappeared, like, people that I was watching with were like, oh, have they swapped van? I was like, oh no, because the number plate's still, it's the same van. But obviously I was expecting sort of something to happen. But I think the thing for me in the finale was, I was so convinced that one of the main three were going to die. I convinced myself to the point I was like, one of them's not going to make it. Because I think what it was the tagline of the series was "Lies cost lives," and I was thinking someone's going to not make it through. And I guess because I was like, had that expectation of like, whoever it was, I thought it was going to be Steve, Kate, or Ted. And I was kind of thinking, I thought Ted was going to make it. I really did. And I think there was that expectation, especially at the end of the episode, of like, is there something? And then when there wasn't, I think it's kind of like, okay, like, it was fine. And I'm glad they are still alive, because I'm hoping still there'll be another series. But yeah, it was interesting. And like, Buckles is like unexpected. He was in it from series, he was in series 4, 1, 4, and 6, I think. Yeah. And like, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because like, a lot of people are like, well, he can't be the fourth man because of like, just, you know, it's Buckles, it's
Yeah.
wondering Buckles, sort of thing. And you'd think, because he obviously said that he's like the go-between, sort of, he sends the messages, he like delivers
Keeping it open, isn't it?
Mm. And it's like, is he working for a higher person? But he is just the fourth man involved. But then is there someone higher that he is obeying to, sort of thing? And I think especially at the end, when he gives that little smirk in his prison cell, and you just think, right, okay. And it's just like, what is there something more at play here, sort of thing?
Yeah. I thought when he actually is actually got unveiled to be him, I thought that was great filming. And by the way, they just wouldn't let you see him, and everyone was looking
Oh,
in the office as he walked in and
oh,
stuff. And When I seen the prisoner uniform, I sort of knew it was him. Only because it reminded me of when he got arrested the last time and he was in the prison cell. I just thought this is definitely going to be Buckles. I know they probably put that suit on everyone, but it just reminded me back to when he did get
Yeah,
arrested. Before he sat down, I did realise it was going to be him. But I thought it's still good filmmaking and good anticipation. I like the way the characters knew who it was for about 10 minutes before we did. I was
definitely.
like,
Yeah,
oh my God, they know now and we don't.
it was very well done. So obviously you see Carmichael stood there, and then you see Hastings, and you see Steve, and when he's typing in the thing, you think, because they normally like will show the name or something,
Yeah.
but he sits down. Even when he sat down, you don't know, and then it's like, oh, here to interview, and you're like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
what at one point I find interesting is the scene earlier in the series, episode at the end of episode 4, where Jimmy Little gets killed by Lee Banks, um, who is part of the OC from series 5, and then he's then right in front of Buckles, and he's shaking with his tea, and he's like, and you're thinking, when it gets revealed as him, you're thinking, what sort of was like, why was he reacting in that way? Because obviously you think, well, he knew that was going to happen, sort of thing. But
Owen said that maybe they don't even know that he's this H character, and he's just ordered them to do it in front of him, or
yeah,
someone has, but they don't actually know who he is.
mm,
Like,
that was,
so Lee Banks doesn't actually know who
yeah,
involved too much. It's just been ordered to do.
and he's just like playing it as an act, sort of
Yeah,
thing. I'm just innocent, sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, either that or it could have just been a thing of like, he's obviously given these orders and stuff, but it's the first time that he's like seen something follow through, because he's just normally behind a computer, sort of thing. But
mm.
maybe him seeing the death and murder of someone is quite a thing of like,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
quite big. But I mean, yeah, that's a good idea to fix. It is an interesting point. Like, do the other people know that he is the identity? Because that was another big thing. I think in one of the first episodes of the series, when he sat in his office and there was that golf caddy
Yeah.
behind, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" Just think, "Oh no, it's a red herring." So I remember seeing that. I'm thinking, "Oh, it's a caddy. It might be him." But I was like, "Oh no, no, there's no way." That's what ruled him out.
I reckon Jed just sits on social media and just has a cup of tea, just laughing so much at all these theories that people come out with.
So
Because he's
funny.
just got everyone on strings, hasn't he?
It's so.
Do you want a Series 7? Or do you think there will be a Series 7 as well?
Of course, I want a Series 7, Jordan. I've
Yeah.
got anything for more Line of Duty. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's bound to be. There's bound to be. I mean, I think the BBC released a statement on Monday where they said how happy they were with the viewing figures, and they're excited to get into talks of the future of the show. So there's bound to be. I mean, it might even get recommissioned for another 2, because I think that's what happened previously after Series 4. They commissioned 5 and 6. So I mean, and Jed has said that he would be happy to do it. He just doesn't know if he would. And I know all the cast want to, because I think they've said that obviously. I mean, first of all, for doing what they did with Series 6 in the midst of a pandemic, like,
Yeah.
it's an amazing feat that they've done it. Because I know they filmed, I think, the first 2 episodes before the first lockdown, and
And then
then
they have to have a big break, didn't they?
Martin had to fly back to America before the whole travel restrictions thing, and then they filmed the rest, I think, from August to Christmas or whatever. But they didn't get to obviously have what they usually have, like a wrap party or like the fun
Yeah.
alongside it, which is a shame. So I think everyone wants it to happen, I think, but it's obviously, the thing is, like, this is sort of wrapped up a whole 10-year story thing. So like there obviously needs to be, if they do a Series 7, a worthy enough plot to sort of make it good to come back. So I think whether or not they do sort of still explore the H storyline a little bit, with if Osborn's going to be back or what's going to happen. And there's the whole thing with AC-12, like it's Carmichael's involved, and what's going to happen with the main 3. So it'd be interesting to see what they do in a new series. But I think there needs to be a new sort of story. That's why I think if they announce Series 7, they will probably announce a Series 8 as well, because they should really create a new sort of story arc, even if they do sort of tinker a little bit with what has just happened, sort of thing as well, because that's what people are going to want. So I think Series 1 to 3 was sort of based upon the whole Caddy storyline with Dots. and then series 4 to 6 was the whole HOCG like sort of thing. So like but then the whole thing has been summarized in series 6, obviously all the drawbacks and stuff. But I'm hoping for it. I really am. I'd love to see it again.
I've got a feeling if anything's going to threaten Ted in the series 7, if he's still working, it'd be Carmichael saying, bringing that stuff up again. I mean, I hope it's not too obvious, things like that. I hope it's not too obvious with like trying to involve Osborn as the big man and stuff like that, because a lot of people are already thinking that's what it's going to go into. I do hope, like you said, they do something a little bit different there, maybe a little different storyline to explore and stuff like that. Just think, and then they can make another series out of it and get Prepare 2 ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think another thing that I just remembered about series 6, that whole it started in episode 1 where it was like, is Steve going to move is going to move units to a different like police thing? Then that was that woman who
the series 6, isn't he?
because it was that woman who was in series 2, I think she first appeared in, who he was with before the other girlfriend he got. And they met again in episode 5 or 4 or something, and that never really got addressed. So I'm guessing he just decided, obviously, he was going to stay and stuff. But they've planned
series 7 could open with him in a different department. You mean?
It could do, yeah. There's a possibility, but he probably won't, because I feel obviously now it's sort of leading to believe that Kate's going to rejoin AC-12. Because there's that lovely scene with them in the lift at the end, which I thought was really nice. Obviously, having them back together and stuff. But yeah, I really do hope there is one. Definitely.
Cool. Okay, so do you want me to just get on to this little quiz that I've sorted out for you, Walter? I've got a feeling that you're going to get 10 out of 10 because you've already come up with some of the answers here.
Go for it.
All right, then. So here we go. This is such an easy quiz. Dodgy copper who woke up to find a hand missing. Can you name her?
Ross Huntley.
Yeah. 1 out of 1. Okay, this character bottled a neighbour for playing music, but she did have a lot going on in her life, so...
Lindsay Denton.
Okay, this person managed to kiss Steve before being thrown out of a window. You've already mentioned this one.
Georgia Trotman.
Yeah. Okay. DCI Ross Huntley woke up to see a forensic supervisor standing over there with what?
A chainsaw.
When you mentioned all these early on in the video. Okay, what does FLO stand for?
FIO.
No.
Is it FLO? I would have said forensic investigating officer, but it's FLO.
No, no. I think I might have messed that one up. Yeah, I think I messed that one up. Just forget.
Wait, what was it?
I put family liaison officer, FLO.
Oh wait, no, that's probably right.
Is it?
Yeah, no, that is right. Sorry, no, that's just me. Yeah, no, so I just got that one wrong. No,
I thought, have I looked at that wrong? Because I know what he's on about there, FIO, and have I looked at it wrong? But
no, that's right. No, FLO is, yeah, no, I was just wrong. I got that one wrong. Sorry.
Okay, pretend that there's 9 questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Shot dead by one of his bullied colleagues. Which cop lasted 1 episode?
Oh, Danny Aldrin.
Who threatened to chop Steve's finger off with a bolt cutter?
Ryan Pilkington.
Ted, fill in this blank. So, Ted's wisecracking quote: "None of my officers would plant evidence. I would throw the book at them," followed by the what? Got him.
My book, followed by the, oh my gosh. Followed by, no, I don't know.
The bookshelf.
The bookshelf. Oh gosh. If the one, I might have got it. That's a good question.
No worries. I remember that quote, actually. I thought it was brilliant. Which H suspect once went undercover to catch H?
H was undercover to catch H. Oh, H suspect once went undercover to catch H. Oh my gosh. So a suspect. So one of the.
So anyone who basically they interrogating to be this top man, basically.
And who wasn't. A suspect that wasn't H that went undercover to catch H. That's boggling my mind. It's going to be really straightforward, isn't it? Who's been a suspect? Oh my gosh. When we're going back, right? So from series 4 onwards, undercover to BH. Oh,
People still watching this now, they'll be shouting at the screen.
John Corbett.
No.
Undercover to. Oh, I'm going to be shouting at myself in a minute. Why? Oh my gosh, who?
Ted Hastings.
Oh, oh my god. Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
I think it was that more in series 5, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, embarrassed. I can't show my face anymore. I'm leaving.
Well, in all fairness, you haven't watched series 5 for a while, so it's okay.
Yes.
All right, bit of mathematics, get your fingers out.
Okay.
How many episodes are there of Line of Duty altogether?
36.
Yeah. I thought you were going to have to think about that one.
No, because I know this was 5 in series 1 and there was 7 in series 6. So 6 times 6 in essence. Yeah.
Okay, well, that is it, Walter. I think we've covered basically much all of it. Is there anything else you want to say? Or
I'm just looking back through my notes. One thing I did want to say, I had a question about, because obviously there's been a lot of cliffhangers throughout the whole show as a whole. How did you think the cliffhangers in this series compared to some of the ones in the earlier series?
I thought the shootout was a great cliffhanger. I mentioned it on my last podcast, but when I said I have to rewind it sometimes or pause it just to write down some stuff, next door were ahead of me and I heard the gunshots going off.
No.
The guy next door, who was a really nice fella, by the way, just went, "Oh, fucking hell," because he's got to wait for another week. I just went, "What's coming there?" But yeah, that was one of the best cliffhangers, I thought. And the other one with Joe Davidson's picture.
Yeah.
Everyone was thinking who's in that picture, but I remember I messaged you and you went, "It's Joe Davidson."
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh yeah, you're right there actually." So yeah,
It was
they were two great cliffhangers, I thought. But I'm trying to think back what other ones we had. The one in series 1, episode 1, series 4 was a really good one, I thought. With Roger. Yeah. The best cliffhanger for me is series 3, though, with Dot shooting.
Episode 5.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think, yeah. As I said, I think the whole shootout one was very obviously annoying. And I think it was obviously just not ruined for me a little bit, but I was convinced that it wasn't going to be Kate sort of thing. One thing that I find really interesting that I was thinking earlier before we came on call about the whole show as a whole, like, it's like with between series 1 to 3 or 4, I think it's almost like we're ahead of AC12, like in terms of knowing the evidence and what we see, like especially series 3 sort of thing, where we see him kill the man in cold blood, and obviously they're investigating it, and it's like we see these things happen before them, whereas sort of series 6, we're very much sort of on the same page as them throughout, like we're being sort of drip fed stuff. As I said at the start of our discussion, like we're meant to be playing the detectives alongside them, which I thought was very clever, because usually in most crime dramas you see things before it comes to realize with the detectives on screen, but it's just interesting how he sort of like can twist that sometimes just to either have you on side or give you more to start with. But it's like that just crossed my mind earlier, that I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. But yeah, I mean, the cliffhangers for this one were really much harder.
Yeah.
Because I did have to wait for the week.
Like I said earlier,
it was, but waiting the week was just made them that more extreme. I do think series 2 and 3, by the way, were just the same cliffhanger. I mean, sorry, episode 2 and 3. Did you think that?
Yeah,
Where
I
they
was about to say that.
you're being threatened, isn't it?
Yeah, because series 2, I mean, episode 2 was obviously in the car, and episode 3 was on the laptop, wasn't it? Like, it was the same sort of thing. I was kind of like, okay. Then obviously episode 4 and 5 were the two sort of big, yeah. Because that's the sort of first time they've sort of really done that, had sort of 2 episodes back to back mid series that have been so sort of like heavy. But I think it definitely needed that. I think after episode 1 and 2 of series 6 were, episode 2 is noticeably different than episode 1, but I think they were kind of slow, kind of like setting the scene, obviously, but it definitely needed that sort of like mid-series thing to pick it up a lot, which was great. Obviously, it's just seeing what the future holds, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't impact my view on the show at all. This series, it was very, very good. I don't know. Do you want me to go through my ranking
Oh,
quick?
I was just going to say, yeah, Walter, go on. We'll rank this. But I'm going to do a separate video on this, everyone. I'm going to be ranking them in a different video. But I did say to Walter, it'd be good if you could rank your series at the end. So go ahead, Walter. What's in 6th place there?
It was very difficult when it got nearer the top. I'm going to say series 2. I'm going to say series 2 as my last one. Not that it's bad, as I say, like I love all the series. I think, and Lizzie Denton's great. I just think in terms of the content of what they were doing with the whole the crash and the whole like thing with Tom Hanks at the start, and then the whole setting up the caddy, it felt almost like it was a sort of setup for the next series sort of thing, like almost like a bridge between 1 and 3 sort of thing, which wasn't a bad thing, and it was still a very, very good series, but it was, yeah, not as good as the others for me personally, I don't think.
Yeah, I think I mean, I know there wasn't that many big standout moments, but I think I'd probably have series 2 myself personally a little bit higher. But I understand why you put
Yeah.
it there.
Yeah, of course, yeah. See, this is where it gets difficult. This, oh my
Difficult on the second spot.
no, literally, because it might even change once I've rewatched series 5, as I say. But for now, I've put series 5 in 5th place. Yeah,
Right.
it's as we said earlier, it was kind of like the directions that it was going in was noticeably different than previous series, and the whole speculation side of things brought it down a little bit for me. But it was still a great series, as I say. But yeah, that's where I put that one, I think.
It's certain that because series 2 has less hard hitting moments and series 5 has a lot, but sort of opposite end of the spectrum really in terms of them big epic moments. I feel, but yeah, it's interesting the way you put them both there. So
Yeah, it's
I
funny.
understand why you've done it.
You'll probably be surprised where I've put some of the others. I think, yeah. So 4th place, I'd probably, oh my gosh, series 1. I'm gonna put in 4th place. I think it was it set up the show great. It was obviously Gates great, is a great character, and it's brought it to where it is now. Obviously, as we've seen with series 6, and it was a great series. I think I just preferred some of the elements from the ones that I've put higher. A 3rd place, I'm going to put series 4. I did enjoy series 4. I think a lot. Like I liked the whole idea of the whole setup with these girls and the suspect of Michael Farmer, and like the hardship sort of he went through to sort of like prove his guilt. I liked the tensions between Steve and Kate at parts, because obviously they both wanted that DI promotion, didn't they, in that series especially? And there was some scenes where they were both sort of going to Hastings, being like, "Oh, come on," sort of thing. And it's nice to sort of explore that bit of tension we hadn't got before. That big cliffhanger at the end, mid-series with Steve, I thought was crazy. I think I should have personal connections. That's the first one that I watched, as I said earlier. I really did enjoy the finale. There's that shootout. There was her obviously confessing. I really liked how then she convicted Jimmy Lake well, and it was like a nice rounded series. I thought what it explored was good. It had some really hateable characters in it, which was obviously works well in things. But yeah, and then 2nd place, I'm gonna put series 6. Surprisingly enough, I
And
think.
it's very high praise there, Walter, for the new
Yeah,
series.
it was. Yeah, I think it might change in the future. As I say, it is subject to change this list. I did just make it up quite quickly. But the progression through the series, as I said, like how it started, it had intrigue, it had sort of like, it kept me thinking like, okay, I mean, you've got me. And then how it progressed through that mid-series high was definitely some of the most intense. Like episode 4, like that whole convoy sort of like scene was just like, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, 'cause
I think it's one of the best Line of Duty episodes behind the end of Series 3, to be honest.
you just knew
Episode 4 was unbelievable.
some, as soon as they laid that prison, and you just knew, and that first Black Range Rover, I was like, oh my god, what? I was like, I thought Steve had it in. I was like, is he going to die? But I mean, that was mad. And then episode 5 was great as well. I think it had a lot of great moments in series 6 that just like, when I think about the other series, this series had so many great moments just to name. And obviously Ryan Pilkington is one of the best characters that the show has. And the finale for me, it's weird how my mind's changed on it. So not dramatically, but since watching it, because I did say to my friends at first when it first finished, I was kind of underwhelmed. But like that's the thing with the instant reactions, I think, isn't it? Like when you come out of a film, you can just be like, oh, just say something about it. But the more you kind of think about it, the more you like let it sink in, it's like, well, like, yeah, you can have a different approach on it, which I've certainly had with that.
That's what I was like on my video. Like a few days later, I'd start thinking of things that, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, because instant reaction of the episode is totally
Yeah,
different to when you sort of go. Because I didn't rewatch these episodes, but I was rewatching moments that I was thinking about through the week. If you get
exactly.
me, it sort
Yeah.
of made a little bit more. You see it a bit clearer and stuff.
Exactly. And yeah, and then first place, obviously series 3. Yeah, just like I said, the whole thing with it, I think it was like subverting expectations. That whole plot of like Sans View and that home for all those kids, and then the reasoning behind it. I failed to mention earlier. Then like, I love how Steve was so like set on the idea of like continuing Danny's sort of like investigate that whole thing. Like, and then when you find out who he killed and the reasons behind it, and that whole scene at the end of episode 1 where he goes to I can't remember the character's name, goes to that guy's house, and like takes his dog and then like kind of dismembers him and stuff, and then it's like when you realize what it was all for, and then the whole thing with Dart and the list, and it's just like, it's such a firm series that just held everything together so well. And then Dots, the final 2 episodes, like it was, yeah,
It's
easy.
10 out of 10, mate.
Honestly, yeah,
It's 10 out of 10.
that thing, yeah,
So well put together. It's got some of the best characters like Lindsay and what's his name, Dot, and all that. And I agree with what you said, the way Steve's carrying on Danny Waldron's little investigation there, stuff like that. It's just
yeah,
had a great story. It was perfect. Topped off by the best ending any
easily.
episode I've seen in this show.
I just can't get over how Jed writes those interrogation scenes. I don't know where he begins the process. It's just like so gripping television. Like it just shows that you don't need like all these big sort of cliffhangers all the time. It can just be
Yeah.
sat down half an hour watching this narrative just unfold, and like it's just completely compelling. It's amazing. Yeah.
I don't want to give any spoilers away for my ranking video, but I probably agree with you on number 1 there.
I
I
could guessed, but no, yeah, sorry. I don't want to ruin your upcoming video. Yeah,
No, no, mate. I agree with you. Series 3 for me is the best.
yeah.
Great ranking. Series 6 does deserve high praise. I feel. I do think it was one of the better ones, to be honest with you. So yeah, great ranking, my friend.
I look forward to seeing us on Sunday. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll get it up this Sunday. So I think that's it. Walter, is there anything else you want to mention? Or
Covered a lot. Yeah, no, I'm happy. Yeah, thank you for having me on again. It's been a pleasure.
no worries, mate. We'll have to get you on again soon. Talk about like maybe something else you're into, movies or
Definitely.
whatever.
Yeah, 100%. That'd be good. Thank you.
All right, you got me on Instagram anyway. So,
Yeah.
thanks so much, Walter, for coming on. Don't forget, I've left his details down below, his Instagram and his Letterboxd. If you want to follow him on there, I personally do recommend it. And Thank you so much, Walter, for coming on. Very insightful knowledge there on Line of Duty.
No, likewise. It's great been talking to you about it. Yeah, glad someone has the same passion that I do.
I'm just glad you were a bit more knowledgeable than me because I haven't watched it all again for a while. But I'm trying to get my fiance into it, so I'm thinking I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna watch it all again soon, and hopefully
yeah,
we'll get a 37. Eh?
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Thank you.
All right, mate. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. If you want to comment down below, I'll try and get back to you all. I promise. Take it all easy, guys, and I'll see you all next video.
Cheers.